Hey y'all, from Spindle Mountain Mercantile. I am Heather. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we have only 3 projects, but each of them will add so much whimsy to your Christmas. Project number 1. While shopping at Hobby Lobby, Mama said, "Hey, look, all their fall stuff is 90% off." And I went over there and she wandered off. I thought, well, this is payback. Anyway, I found this cute little truck for 55 cents. Iron Orchid Designs Christmas Transfer Partridge Lane just screams to be used 3-dimensionally. So I'll be using some transfers from that and Debbie's DIY in Apothecary. I sell all of these in my booth in upstate South Carolina, but I don't yet do mail order. My friend Heather over at Create Your Own Cozy has created an affiliate link just for me and my customers. I'll drop that link in the description, and if you use it to buy something from Heather, she'll give me a small compensation and won't change your price. Thank you so much, Heather, for doing that, and thank you to each of you who use that link. I started by painting all of the green surfaces with Apothecary, and I only gave it one good coat. I used a brush that was very used, and I kind of glopped the paint on so it would look thick and make this look more like an old truck. You can sand down the decals first. I decided not to because I thought it would bring a little bit of depth. You can still see the pinstripes when I'm done painting. Looking back now, I wonder if maybe I added some dark wax when I was completely done, if it would make that pinstripe pop more. I really do like how it turned out, and it's kind of weird too because I love distressing things, but for some reason I didn't want to distress this when I was done. I felt like everything I added to it would maybe not pop as much. I don't know. You can tell me at the end what you think about that. I was a little impatient, so I got out my heat gun to dry the paint. These are the next trees I'm buying from Amazon. They're more muted than the colors I use today. I want to show you this picture though. When you go to Amazon, make sure to look at this picture of whatever you're buying. It shows the quantity, the size, all the information you need to know. Look around when you go buy stuff from Amazon and make sure you get exactly what you want. When I send you a link to Amazon, it doesn't mean you have to buy that item. They will compensate me if you buy something, but don't at all feel like you have to get what I got. Look around, get what you want. So you can see this truck is not painted at this point. That's because I lost the footage of putting these trees in, but it was really important. So I went back out to my little she shack and I refilmed this just for you. So I started by figuring out what trees I wanted where and then looking at it and then putting trees back in. And when I was ready, I put the biggest tree in the front and one that's just right next to that size next to it. So behind it in the truck. And I added another big one at the end. And I just figured out where I wanted them by pushing them down and eyeballing the part where the tree trunk, which is, I took the little piece of wood off the bottom. So where the wire touches the truck, that's where I drilled. And I didn't make a mark. I just remembered where it was. And you could scratch it or anything. Listen, if you make too many holes in this, because, you got some holes in the wrong place, that's okay. No one's going to see it, because it's covered with trees. So it's okay if you make a mistake. Put the trees where you want them and used hot glue to keep them there. My visions of grandioseness for the decal that would be on the door of this truck were dashed to the ground when I could not find my thin black paint marker. I found the white one, but that just didn't show up enough. I had thought I would write something wonderful like farm-grown Christmas trees or fresh trees, something really fun. Well, that didn't work. You can see I put a banner on there and I didn't show you how to add the banner. Well, I'll teach you in project number 2 how to use IOD transfers. So just bear with me with this part now because I'm going to show you how I pieced together the Christmas trees. There weren't any really little Christmas trees, so I decided to cut the tops off of some others. Now, don't stress because I can still use the bottoms. The important part of this is when you cut the tops off the trees, don't cut a straight line, or if you do, go back and make it kind of zigzaggy, and that looks more like a natural tree. So I also added a little trunk at the bottom, and now I'm adding the prettiest and tallest tree right to the middle of the door. I went back and I cut it, and you can see how I'm going back and forth with my scissors to make it not a straight line, and that looks more natural. I cut 2 more tree tops off and added them on either side. I did not have a trunk for each of them. Some of the greenery went all the way down to the bottom of the truck. To fix that, I used Snow Tex I found at Hobby Lobby. I will leave a link for Amazon. I figured out the best way to do this was just to put it on the end of my paintbrush handle and wipe it off the bottom of the truck. And then I used my finger to make it smooth so it wasn't falling down. Now I wish I would have left that because that might look kind of cool falling down. I made it a little bit thick in the middle, and then as it spread out, I made it thinner. And you would think this would be enough, and it was. It actually was. But I thought, how cool would it be if I could find some IOD tiny letters like these? This is just a picture of the back of the book. Well, they don't have little tiny letters, but I did cut out the picture of one of these, and you could add this. I decided I liked it without it, though. What do you think? Project number 2. I found this fantastic frame at the thrift store, but for this project, you could use any thick frame. This wood is almost an inch thick, and the glass is at the back of the wood instead of the front, and that's how we're going to use it to make it more 4D than just 3D. I used 80 grit sandpaper on it to just make the whole front surface look older and to make it look uniform because it was a little bit darker in places, like it had just been worn over time, and I just wanted it to be the same all over. The smaller the grit of your sandpaper, the deeper the grooves will be, so keep that in mind. I'm adding this beautiful transfer from Partridge Lane. It has pink in it, and I love pink at Christmas. Mama's not a huge fan, but I bet you when she sees this in person, she will like it. Applying IOD transfers is super easy. Just cut out the transfer to the size you need and take the back off. Then lay it down on your object and rub the entire thing with your hands just to give it that initial stick. Next, use your little plastic stick. It's an application stick that comes with every IOD package, and rub the surface of the entire transfer. Then go back, right here. Part of my transfer went over the edge, just a little bit of berries and some of the greenery. So I cut slits next to it so it would fold over easier. And I started right there by rubbing that, and the plastic just popped up once that part had stuck to the edge. Now go back to one of the corners and lift it up. If you can't lift that carrier sheet, the plastic part that's on top of your transfer, slip another piece of plastic or paper behind it, and that will help you lift it up. Sometimes it gets stuck and it's hard to get your fingernail in there. Once you have that carrier sheet lifted away, slowly keep pulling it back as you use your transfer stick to rub where it's pulling away from your object. If your transfer is coming with the carrier sheet, Just lay that back down and rub it again, and that should work. You might have to do that a few times. Now remember how I used a smaller grit sandpaper? That means there's grooves in this. So it's going to take a little bit longer to get this transfer completely adhered. And that's okay. I just took my time. And when I got done, I went over the whole thing and burnished it. I used my fingers because it's such an uneven surface, but you can use the plastic carrier sheet or the piece of wax paper that the transfer comes on in the first place. And you just rub the entire surface, and that makes sure that everything is adhered. For the picture, I removed the piece of cardboard that was behind the glass, and I cut out the back of one of my IOD books. Then I painted it with vintage linen from Debbie's DIY. I applied this pretty thick, but I didn't really do 2 coats. Maybe it's the equivalent amount of 2 coats though. I did make sure that it was fairly smooth. I want some kind of depth to this, and I didn't realize everything. Y'all, this was a fail. So you'll see what I did to fix it. But see this shaking? I'm so sorry about that. Every time somebody walks into my trailer, it shakes. And I didn't realize that's why my camera moves so much. So sorry about that. This is a really bad brush, and I have to find all these little pieces of hair and get them out. So that was frustrating. Buy good brushes. At least buy halfway decent brushes, and don't keep them beyond the part where the hair falls out. That's a good pro tip. I was impatient with this as well, so I got out my heat gun and dried it, and it dried really, really fast. It needed something darker though. I put it underneath the picture frame to see how it looked with the white, and it was just such a stark difference. I didn't like it. And you'll want to do this whenever you're making something like this. Don't hesitate to see what it looks like in your frame or whatever you're working with, if it's a box or a tray or whatever. Make sure that you like it along the way. So to give this some depth, I got out Debbie's liquid patina, old and gray barnwood. This is you can use this for all different things. You can even do Mod Podge with this, and it just adds a patina. And this one looks like old barnwood, so I thought since it was more gray, it would look good. And I was right. It did look good. I put it on fairly thin, and I can't remember. I want to say I let this dry for several hours. Oh no, I didn't. Look at that. I used my heat gun. I was impatient. I was actually hoping it would crackle a little bit. It did a tiny little bit, but not too much. Anyway, it looked really good, and I loved it. So I put these 2 houses on it. And then I cleaned the glass with my Sprayway glass cleaner. This is nothing that I'm sponsored by. You can get it anywhere. I think you can even get it at the grocery store. I get mine on Amazon in multi-packs. This stuff is amazing if you don't want streaks. And I know some people hesitate to use aerosol, but I end up using less of this than other chemicals because it works so well and I don't have to scrub as much. So I put everything back together, and I was so excited. Then I turned it over, and I was so bummed. It's just too small. Those houses are not the right scale. They left a lot of room on the side for my trees. I'm going to make it multi-dimensional with, but it didn't tickle my fancy. So I took it apart, and this time I got out my letterpress gray, and I realized also that I wanted this background to be more textured, so I glopped this stuff on it. I mean, I just glopped it. I put out big old piles of this, and this is a really old can too that's probably been contaminated quite a bit, so it's not the smoothest. If you want your DIY paints to be smooth, don't contaminate them. Put them in a different container when you're using them to paint with, and you can use a mister or just a little bit of light water spray and spray it as you brush it, and it will make it so it doesn't have streaks. I even tried swirling it right here to give it a different dimension. Realized right away I did not like that, so I just went back over it with straight, even strokes all the way across. And then I used my heat gun and I held it really super close to see if I could get it to be crackled. If you put lots and lots of paint, you're going to get a little bit of crackle effect. Maybe not crackle as much as cracked. I loved it. I tried different houses. I love this little pink book store. It's adorable. There's also a black one that I really liked, but this scale was wrong because it was bigger than my trees. I just played around a little bit more with, oh, right there. Did you see me putting that back on the paper that it came with? Make sure you tape those big scraps to the back, or even small scraps to the back that you're putting it back on, the little wax paper. If you don't, it's going to come apart in your stash and it will stick to some plastic, and then you're going to cry because you lost one of your favorite transfers and nobody wants that. You are welcome. All right, I loved this pink house and I knew I wanted this pink house. I needed to find a black house or a gray house that matched it. So how I did that was that matched the scale. I checked the doors because these are all different sizes, and I didn't want some ginormous giant door to go with the little tiny fairy door. I just kept looking until I found 2 different colors with doors that were the same size. Listen, Debbie's DIY paints are clay-based, which means they're water-soluble. Therefore, you have to seal them. I didn't seal this because it's going to be behind glass, and I didn't think it would be messed with. You can seal your project before or after you add the transfer. It just depends on what kind of usage your project will get and how often it will be touched. Adding sealer will make Debbie's paint just a little bit darker or a little bit brighter. I want to live in that house. There's like a shop on the bottom and then I think a house on the top, and that's my dream. This bookstore looked really cute, but see, those are giant doors and my house door is so little. So I found this one, and y'all, it was perfect. I put it very close to the pink house so that it looked like they were row houses, you know, the kind of houses they build in big cities that are attached to their next door neighbors. I did that, and I could have done it the other way, but I love the black in the middle, and plus it's just a little bit bigger, and I felt like that was better to be centered there. Oh, I felt so much joy when I turned it over and it was exactly how I wanted it. The houses were the right size. The gray had enough dimension to it. It was just perfect. So I took everything back out and figured out where I wanted the trees. I kind of already knew. I wanted the biggest one on the left and then the second biggest next to it and then the smaller one right in the middle of in front of both of those. I'm using my drill to just drill straight down into that wood. Well, it's kind of at an angle because my drill didn't fit straight down, but it's okay. You can just bend your trees however. You just want to make sure that hole is big enough to get the little metal trunk in there that's made out of wire and make sure it sticks. Now right here you can see I'm cutting the side of the tree that goes against the glass. You don't want to cut all the way next to the wire because if you do that, then all those bristles will fall out the front. So make sure you keep a little bit of bristle, you know, enough on the back side so it won't fall out. But you want to cut those so that's where it will go against the glass. And when you put those trees next to each other, you kind of bend them out and then pull them in towards each other so that the bristles go straight across into each other. If you push it down right next to it when you start pushing it down, then your bristles are going to go up and the other ones will be pushed down and it won't look right. So you want them to go like perpendicular next to each other and interlocking into each other. I used my regular hot glue for this, and I just put the glue on the end of the wire trunk and I stuck it right down in there and I held it for just a moment to make sure it was where I wanted it. And I did this with each tree. I realized right away that white tree was just not the scale I was looking for. It was too similar to the size of the tree next to it. So I used my needle nose pliers to hold the wire and then I twisted off the base of a smaller white tree and added it. And it was exactly what I was looking for. Because I want lots of dimensional texture, I'm adding Snow Tex. But I had remembered someone told me about this Aleene's. It comes in regular and glitter. Let me know if y'all have used it. I'd like to try it. I noticed it does cost a little bit more, at least on Amazon it does. So let me know if it's worth that extra little bit. I'm just adding this with an X-Acto knife, which might sound dangerous, but I'm being really careful. My mama has a spatula she uses, and you can get those little spatulas that are for making, I think it's when you're doing pottery. They have those at Dollar Tree in the craft section, and you can use those. Right here, I just lifted up the trees with the part of the blade that didn't have any Snow Tex on it, and I just pushed it down onto the ledge. There's places where I wanted it to hang down over the front, and I just kind of pulled it down with that X-Acto knife there, and I piled it first. Then I kind of went over it and figured out where I wanted everything to be. And as I looked at it, I noticed holes or maybe too much and just moved it around. When I got to the corner, I wanted it to look like a snowdrift that had piled up in that corner. So I just added quite a bit there, and then I spread it out, and oh my goodness, you guys, it looks so good. I love it so much. When I got done though, that black part at the bottom of the frame, it just looks so plain. So I decided to add some garland, and this garland has matching pink berries in it that are the same colors as all 3 Christmas trees, and it was so perfect. Y'all, I swear I want to live in that black house, and my mama and my aunt, they could live next door to us in the pink house, and we would have like doors that are attached so they wouldn't have to go out in the snow to get to visit us. But you know they'd want to go in my bookstore because I'd have a coffee shop there too. Wouldn't y'all want to visit me there? Project number 3. Last year I spray painted a bunch of bulbs in that color that's kind of like, I say it's 1930s hospital green. It's kind of a blue green. And I put those bulbs on the way I'm going to do this tree. I sold it really fast because I named it my Jetsons tree. Somebody loved it. So I bought this big bag of baubles and bulbs from my favorite thrift store. It was $4.95. And I'm going to add the bulbs to the end of this tree that I found at Dollar Tree last year for $1.25. I took all the pieces off the bottom that connected it to the stand. And how I'm doing this is starting with one color. I have a mixed number of bulbs, so it's not going to match. And I started with the green, which I have the smallest amount of, and I worked my way around the tree. Some of the bulbs are bright and shiny, and some are matte. I just mixed them all different. You know how when people put the same ornament next to another ornament on your tree and it's like, it drives you crazy? I didn't want that. I wanted to spread them out. I have mostly purple and aqua, so there are places where those are quite a few right next to each other, but I think I found a pretty good mix. The openings of these bulbs are pretty small, so I didn't feel a need to glue them. I just really pushed them in there, and I'm sure that the end of each branch kind of curled up inside each bulb. They are not going to come off. I messed with it quite a bit, and I think if they were going to come off, it would have done that when I was working on it. The stand for this tree is a little plastic belt, well, kind of a big plastic belt I found at Dollar Tree. And I'm going to start by just removing the tag and pulling off the ribbon. Then I used my pliers to break the little handle part that goes across the opening. It's like where you would tie your ribbon or what you would attach the bell to when you're hanging it. I thought if I used a knife, I just felt like this was a better way and it wouldn't crack down this side. I had more control, and plus I don't trust myself with knives. Yeah, I've had bad experiences. I'm using floral foam from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just pushing it down in there until it's super, super snug. I didn't use any glue. because that tree is going to go down through it. It's got a long trunk, and I want to leave that because that gives it more leverage and it will make it not wobbly. I put lots of glue inside the hole and on top of the bell so that the branches of the tree will also be attached to the bell, and that will help it from wobbling so much. Now I'm going to try to attach the garland, and y'all, I did this so many different ways. I draped it so it went up and down and all the way around, and I put it across straight and I zigzagged it, and I did not like any of it. I tried all the different sizes and nothing looked right. So I just decided to leave it off, and with all these different colored bulbs, it really was enough. I did like how the black and white looked with it, but it wasn't right to make a tree skirt for this. It just didn't need it. And now I'm attaching different bulbs to the top to see which one I like for the star. And of course, I always go back to the same one. I still have a few left of these vintage ones that are kind of star shaped, and they have a star painted on it. And I think it's just perfect. I bent the branches over, and I did put glue on this one so it wouldn't fall off because it's vintage. Nobody wants that broken, and it will match everything. When I put it back on, I realized it needed a bow, so I did add that. I did it later and I didn't film it, but I think it turned out perfect. It's not really my style, but I bet you dollars to donuts this is going to sell very quickly in my booth. Did y'all have a favorite? You know I love that picture frame the best, because how could I not love my future home? Am I right? I sure do miss making videos with Mama, and I bet you miss her too. Tomorrow I'm going to her place and we're going to make another Christmas video. Then we'll work on some winter videos next, and before you know it, we're going to start on spring videos, y'all. Yikes! I know you don't want to miss any of that, so make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on your notifications so you won't miss a thing. And our viewership is really down, so we would really appreciate if, for our Christmas present, you could comment and share our video on your other social media platforms. We'd so appreciate that. Until you see us again next time, we hope you have a wonderful week, and as always, I hope you are blessed. Bye!